Some places do not reject humans. They simply do not include them. Across China's vast interior, there are mountain worlds where human presence fades, not with drama, but with quiet certainty. Roads narrow, then stop. Signals weaken, then vanish. The land does not warn. It does not threaten. It continues unchanged, uninterrupted, complete. China is often seen through its cities, its monuments, and its carefully framed viewpoints. But beyond those familiar layers lies a different geography, one shaped by tectonic pressure, ancient ice, volcanic force, and erosion measured not in years, but in millennia. In these regions, scale overwhelms intention, silence replaces instruction, and time moves without reference to human schedules. For centuries, exploration has been framed as arrival, reaching a summit, crossing a pass, placing a marker. But in many of China's mountain systems, arrival offers no sense of control. The terrain does not adjust, the climate does not soften, the environment does not negotiate. Presence becomes temporary, conditional, and often fragile. Some valleys absorb sound so completely that footsteps feel distant. Some ridgelines rise high enough that the human body begins to fail quietly, breath shortening, movement slowing, judgment narrowing. In higher elevations, survival is not challenged suddenly. It is reduced, gradually and without spectacle. These landscapes do not need to push people away. They simply outlast them. What defines these places is not danger, but indifference. Rivers continue cutting through stone. Ice advances and retreats on its own cycles. Forests reclaim paths without notice. The land does not acknowledge ambition, curiosity, or history. It does not respond to being observed. This journey moves through China's most incredible mountain worlds, not as a catalogue of destinations, but as a progression through limits, from landscapes where humans can still coexist, to regions that permit only brief passage, and finally, to environments where sustained human presence is no longer viable. Here, beauty is not arranged for access. Exploration is not rewarded with mastery. And the closer one moves toward these extremes, the clearer it becomes. Some places exist not to be reached, but to remain beyond us. Huangshan is not a place where humans conquer nature. It is a place where nature temporarily permits human presence. Rising from Anhui province, Huangshan has long been understood as a threshold rather than a destination. It sits between two worlds, the familiar terrain where human life can still organize itself, and the higher, harsher realms where nature no longer adapts to human needs. At just over 1,800 meters above sea level, the mountain does not immediately reject the body. Oxygen remains sufficient. Movement is still possible. Paths still exist, but permission here is conditional, and it is never silent about that fact. The geological body of Huangshan is ancient granite, uplifted, fractured, and exposed by hundreds of millions of years of tectonic pressure and erosion. These rocks were not shaped for balance or symmetry. They rise in abrupt columns, splintered ridges, and sheer faces that feel unfinished, almost raw. Time did not soften them, it sharpened them. There is no sense of welcome embedded in their form, only endurance. This is why Huangshan feels like a gateway. It is the highest place where the human body can still negotiate with the landscape instead of submitting to it. Every ascent introduces friction. The terrain narrows attention. Movement slows. Awareness contracts to breath, footing, and proximity. The mountain does not intimidate through scale alone. It disciplines through precision. Traditionally, Huangshan is known for the Four Wonders: ancient pines, grotesque stone formations, seas of cloud, and natural hot springs. But these are not wonders in the modern sense of spectacle. They are systems, each revealing how life, matter, and atmosphere persist under constraint. The pines of Huangshan grow where trees should not survive. They cling to bare granite, their roots twisted deep into fractures no wider than a fist. There is almost no soil, no margin for error. Growth here is slow, deliberate, and exact. These trees do not spread outward or upward aggressively. They hold their position. They survive by restraint. In this way, they mirror the human condition on the mountain. Existence is possible, but only within narrow tolerances. The seas of cloud behave differently than fog below. They do not simply obscure the landscape. They reorganize it. Peaks emerge, vanish, and reappear without pattern. Distance collapses. Scale dissolves. Orientation becomes unreliable. The effect is subtle but profound. The mountain cannot be fully grasped at once. Vision is always partial. Knowledge remains incomplete. For humans, this marks the first erosion of control. Not through danger, but but through instability. The stairways carved into Huangshan slopes are centuries old, narrow, steep, and relentless. They were not designed for speed or comfort. They enforce rhythm. Each step demands balance. Each incline shortens breath. There is no choice but to slow down, no way to rush the ascent. The body adjusts not because it wants to, but because it must. Unlike modern scenic platforms built to frame views, Huangshan's paths refuse to prioritize observation over movement. You are not here to look, you are here to pass through. The mountain allows access, but it controls the terms. Culturally, Huangshan occupies a foundational role in Chinese philosophy and aesthetics. Taoist thought, Buddhist practice, and classical landscape art converge here. For centuries, scholars and monks traveled to Huangshan not to conquer it, but to understand alignment between humanity and the natural order. In traditional ink paintings inspired by Huangshan, human figures are almost absent. When they appear, they are small, isolated, and often turned away from the viewer. A single figure stands against clouds and stone, dwarfed by space. The message is consistent across generations. The landscape is complete without us. This perspective defines Huangshan's significance. It represents the outermost boundary where coexistence is still feasible. Weather shifts quickly, but rarely with lethal intensity. The ground is unstable, but navigable. Vegetation persists. Infrastructure survives. Temples can stand. Paths can remain. Return is expected. But permanence is an illusion even here. Mist erases outlines, rock outlasts wood. Pines grow slower than human lives, but longer than human memory. Huangshan does not absorb human history. It allows it to pass across its surface. As a gateway, Huangshan performs a crucial function in the journey through China's mountain worlds. It introduces scale without hostility. It teaches restraint before exposure. It shows what balance looks like before balance becomes impossible. Beyond Huangshan, conditions will harden, oxygen will thin, sound will fade, ecosystems will close themselves off, the land will stop negotiating, paths will vanish, survival will become temporary rather than assumed. Huangshan is not the climax of the mountain world. It is the last place where humans still belong, briefly, conditionally, and without permanence. From here onward, the mountains no longer wait for us. Mount Lu represents a different stage in the relationship between humans and the natural world. Here, nature is no longer an unknown force to be endured. It has been interpreted, adapted, and gently controlled. Rising between the Yangtze River and Lake Poyang in Jiangxi province, Mount Lu does not overwhelm through height or hostility. Its elevation is moderate. Its slopes are broad. Its climate is humid, misty, and forgiving. This is not a mountain that tests survival. It is a mountain that invites settlement, reflection, and return. Unlike Huangshan, where human presence feels conditional, Mount Lu carries the imprint of continuous habitation. Forests remain dense, covering more than 70% of the massif, but paths are wide. Platforms are stable, buildings endure. The mountain has been shaped not by erosion alone, but by centuries of human intention. Geologically, Mount Lu is ancient, formed from uplifted rock hundreds of millions of years ago. But its physical structure is gentler, layered ridges, rolling peaks, and wide plateaus, rather than sharp granite spires. Water defines this landscape more than stone. Rivers descend in measured cascades. Waterfalls are frequent but controlled, falling through channels that seem almost composed. Mist is the mountain's defining element. Moist air from the Yangtze Basin condenses here year-round, wrapping the slopes in cloud. But unlike the shifting, disorienting seas of cloud on higher peaks, Mount Lu's mist softens rather than erases. It blurs edges. It cools air. It reduces contrast. The environment feels moderated, neither wild nor exposed. This moderation is what allowed Mount Lu to become one of China's most significant cultural landscapes. For centuries, monks, scholars, poets, and statesmen retreated here, not to escape nature, but to live within a managed version of it. More than 4,000 poems were written on Mount Lu. Each one treats the mountain not as an adversary, but as a companion, an environment that supports thought rather than interrupts it. Unlike remote peaks, where silence dominates, Mount Lu carries a constant, low presence of sound. Water moving through forest, wind across leaves, distant footsteps, bells from temples. Silence exists, but it is never absolute. The mountain does not strip away the human world. It integrates it. This integration is visible everywhere. Stone stairways follow natural contours rather than forcing ascent. Pavilions are positioned for observation, not defense. Temples do not hide in cliffs. They stand openly, aligned with valleys, lakes, and cloud layers. Architecture here does not compete with the mountain. It collaborates. Historically, Mount Lu functioned as a center of learning and governance. Scholars debated philosophy. Monks refined spiritual practice. Later, political figures used the mountain as a seasonal retreat. These layers of use transformed Mount Lu into something rare, a landscape where human systems stabilized instead of collapsing. This is domesticated nature, not in the sense of exploitation, but in the sense of accommodation. Yet domestication carries consequences. The mountain's accessibility softened risk. Trails became predictable. Weather became expected. Over time, uncertainty diminished. The environment stopped demanding full attention. Where Huangshan enforces humility through instability, Mount Lu allows familiarity to develop. That familiarity changes perception. The body relaxes, awareness broadens, the sense of exposure fades. The mountain becomes a setting rather than a presence. Nature remains beautiful, but it no longer dominates the experience. This is why Mount Lu occupies a critical transitional role in the journey. It represents the upper limit of harmony between humans and large-scale landscapes. Beyond this point, harmony breaks down. Either nature becomes too hostile to manage, or human intervention becomes too heavy to sustain balance. Mount Lu shows what is possible before that rupture. Even here, however, nature has not surrendered control entirely. Landslides still occur. Fog still isolates sections of the mountain. Forests reclaim unused paths. Human influence persists only where it is continuously maintained. When attention fades, the mountain quietly reasserts itself. Mount Lu teaches that domestication is not permanence. It is a temporary equilibrium. This mountain does not reject humanity, but it does not depend on it either. Remove the buildings, abandon the paths, let time pass. Forest and mist would erase structure without resistance. In the progression through China's mountain worlds, Mount Lu stands as the last place where nature and human culture move at a similar pace. After this, environments accelerate beyond control. Altitude rises, climate hardens, biology narrows, silence deepens. Mount Lu is not wild. It is cultivated wilderness, and cultivation, as history shows, is always fragile. Zhangjiajie marks the moment where the landscape stops adapting to humans and begins setting its own terms. Located in northwestern Hunan province, Zhangjiajie does not announce danger through altitude or climate. Its elevation is moderate. Oxygen remains stable. Vegetation is abundant. At first glance, it appears accessible, yet this terrain introduces something new: vertical separation. The ground itself fractures into isolated worlds. Thousands of quartz sandstone pillars rise abruptly from forested valleys, some exceeding 300 meters in height. They do not form ridgelines or continuous slopes. They stand alone, narrow, sheer, and disconnected. From above, the landscape looks navigable. From below, it becomes disorienting and enclosed. Movement is no longer horizontal, it is segmented. This is the first true boundary in the journey. Here, space is no longer continuous. Valleys are cut off from one another. Sound behaves strangely, bouncing and dissolving between stone walls. Fog settles for more than 200 days each year, compressing visibility and distorting depth. The environment fragments perception. Geologically, Zhangjiajie is the result of long, patient erosion, acting on thick, quartz-rich sandstone. Over millions of years, water exploited vertical fractures, carving away everything except the most resistant cores. What remains are pillars, structures that appear engineered, but are entirely natural. They rise like supports for a ceiling that no longer exists. For humans, this creates a psychological shift. Orientation becomes unreliable. Landmarks vanish behind mist. Direction changes with elevation. The forest below feels enclosed and humid. The platforms above feel exposed and detached. There is no single vantage point that explains the whole system. This is the first landscape where scale defeats comprehension. Unlike Mount Lu, where paths flow gently and return is expected, Zhangjiajie divides access. Some areas can be reached easily. Others remain visible but unreachable. Verticality introduces exclusion not through force, but through geometry. Human infrastructure exists here, lifts, bridges, walkways, but it does not unify the terrain. It stitches together fragments without restoring continuity. Glass bridges suspended between pillars offer momentary dominance of height, but they also expose vulnerability. Wind amplifies. The body becomes aware of empty space beneath it. Balance is no longer taken for granted. Culturally, Zhangjiajie occupies a different role than earlier mountains. It was not a long-term center of scholarship or governance. It remained, for centuries, a remote and fragmented region. Indigenous communities adapted to its isolation, moving through narrow paths and forest corridors rather than attempting to reshape the stone. The mountain did not invite temples. It did not support large settlements. Its vertical form resisted domestication. What makes Zhangjiajie critical is not its beauty, but what it removes. Here, humans lose the ability to move freely. The landscape dictates routes. Visibility is conditional. Even sound does not travel predictably. At certain points, footsteps echo unnaturally. In others, they disappear completely. The environment begins to withhold information. This is where the idea of mastery breaks down. Zhangjiajie teaches that access does not equal control. Seeing does not equal reaching. Standing above a valley does not mean understanding it. The land becomes layered, segmented, and selective. From this point onward, mountains will no longer accommodate long-term human presence by default. Each next region will demand trade-offs: oxygen for altitude, warmth for exposure, stability for access. Zhangjiajie is the threshold where coexistence fractures. It is still possible to enter, still possible to observe, but the landscape no longer integrates human systems naturally. Paths must be imposed. Safety must be engineered. Presence becomes temporary rather than assumed. This is the first place where the mountain begins to push back. Not violently, not dramatically, but decisively. Beyond Zhangjiajie, the journey moves toward environments where fragmentation deepens, silence intensifies, and biology closes itself off. The boundary has been crossed. Fanjingshan marks the point where terrain stops offering roots and begins enclosing itself. Rising in Guizhou province, Fanjingshan does not dominate through height alone. Its summit reaches roughly 2,500 meters, well below the extreme elevations to come. Yet what defines this mountain is not altitude, but isolation by biology. Here, the forest is no longer something humans pass through. It is something that closes behind them. Geologically, Fanjingshan is among the oldest mountain systems on Earth, a surviving fragment of the ancient supercontinent Rodinia, formed over 1 billion years ago. Its red sandstone strata, layered with quartz-rich deposits, catch light at sharp angles, producing faint morning glows that feel less like reflection and more like emission. Stone here does not merely sit in the landscape, it participates in it. But the defining boundary of Fanjingshan is ecological. The mountain hosts an ecosystem so isolated that the majority of its insect species exist nowhere else. Plants evolved here without pressure to adapt to human presence. Forest density increases with elevation. Canopy thickens, visibility narrows, trails thin, then dissolve into irregular stone steps swallowed by moss and root. Unlike Zhangjiajie, where vertical stone divides space, Fanjingshan erases space horizontally. The forest compresses movement, sound softens, wind disappears beneath layers of foliage. The environment does not guide direction, it absorbs it. At higher elevations, something unusual happens. Sound intensity drops dramatically. Voices feel muted. Footsteps lose definition. In certain zones, travelers hear little beyond their own breathing and heartbeat. This is not silence created by emptiness, but silence created by absorption. Moss, bark, and layered vegetation consume vibration. Here, orientation becomes internal. Paths still exist in fragments, ancient stone stairways, leading toward the twin peaks crowned by small temples. But these paths do not dominate the mountain. They cling to it. They feel temporary, almost tolerated. Step off them, and the forest immediately reclaims authority. This is where Fanjingshan differs from all previous landscapes. The mountain does not fragment human movement, it dissolves it. Biology here is closed. Species depend on narrow temperature bands, specific humidity levels, and long stable conditions. Disturbance does not spread, it isolates. The forest does not adapt outward, it resists inward. This resistance reshapes human presence. Movement slows not because of steepness, but because of uncertainty. Visibility rarely exceeds a few dozen meters. Mist arrives without warning. Direction becomes conceptual rather than visual. You do not move towards something. You move within something. Culturally, Fanjingshan occupies a unique position. It is considered sacred ground in Chinese Buddhism, associated with Maitreya, the future Buddha. But unlike mountains where temples integrate with landscape, here spiritual structures appear almost foreign, small, precarious, and isolated atop narrow summits. The temples do not domesticate the mountain. They submit to it. Reaching them requires endurance, patience, and restraint. There are no shortcuts, no wide platforms, no sense of arrival that signals control. Standing on the stone outcrops, surrounded by cloud and forest, humans feel suspended rather than elevated. This is the first place in the journey where the environment no longer acknowledges human systems at scale. Infrastructure does not expand naturally. Maintenance is constant. Abandonment would be swift. Within years, paths would vanish completely beneath moss and root. Fanjingshan demonstrates a critical shift. The landscape no longer negotiates. Where Huangshan permitted adaptation and Mount Lu allowed harmony, Fanjingshan establishes ecological sovereignty. Life here exists on its own terms, within tight biological boundaries. Humans are tolerated only briefly, and only if they remain narrow, quiet, and controlled. Even time feels altered. Without long sightlines or audible distance, moments compress. The forest removes reference points. Hours pass without visual confirmation. Progress is measured not by distance, but by fatigue. This is no longer a place of observation. It is a place of containment. Beyond Fanjingshan, environments will escalate further. Air will thin, temperature will drop, and survival will narrow to physiology alone. But this mountain introduces a subtler lesson first. Humans do not always get pushed out by force. Sometimes, the world simply grows inward until there is no room left to move. Fanjingshan is not hostile. It is complete. And in its completeness, it quietly reminds us that many landscapes were never meant to be crossed, only briefly entered and quickly forgotten by the forest once we leave. Shenongjia is where the landscape stops communicating and begins observing. Hidden deep in western Hubei province, this mountainous forest reserve does not announce itself through dramatic peaks or visible monuments. Its elevations rise gradually, layered in ridges and valleys, cloaked by dense, primeval forest. At first, it feels unremarkable. Then the silence settles in and refuses to leave. This is not the silence of emptiness. It is the silence of occupation. Shenongjia contains one of the last intact subtropical primeval forests in China. The terrain is complex but subdued, rolling mountains, deep ravines, mist-filled basins. What distinguishes it is not form, but acoustic absence. Sound behaves differently here. It does not carry, it does not echo, it seems to dissolve within meters. Bird calls are sporadic. Wind rarely reaches the forest floor. Even water moving through streams feels muted. as if filtered by layers of moss, soil, and time. In this environment, silence becomes active. Biologically, Shenongjia is a refuge. It shelters species that vanished elsewhere: golden snub-nosed monkeys, clouded leopards, rare salamanders, plants that predate recorded history. Many evolved here in isolation, shaped by a climate that remained stable while surrounding regions changed. The forest did not migrate. It endured. That endurance created density. Canopies overlap. Understory thickens. Light fragments into narrow shafts that never fully illuminate the ground. Visibility remains limited, even in daylight. At night, darkness is immediate and total. Artificial light feels intrusive, absorbed rather than reflected. Movement through Shenongjia is slow by necessity. Trails are narrow and inconsistent. Some vanish entirely, reclaimed by vegetation within seasons. Direction becomes ambiguous. The forest does not guide. It encloses. This is where silence becomes psychological. Without long sight lines or distant sound, awareness collapses inward. The mind turns toward bodily cues: breath, pulse, weight. Time stretches unevenly. Minutes feel elongated. Hours pass unnoticed. The environment provides no rhythm to follow. This is why Shenongjia resists long-term settlement. Historically, the region remained sparsely inhabited. Communities existed at the edges, never fully penetrating the interior. Agriculture struggled. Roads were unstable. The forest resisted clearance, not through hostility, but through persistence. Clearings closed, paths vanished, structures decayed rapidly. Even modern infrastructure feels temporary here. Culturally, Shenongjia occupies a strange position. It is tied to myth, but without spectacle. Legends speak of hidden beings, guardians of the forest, or creatures adapted to deep isolation. These stories are not dramatic, they are quiet. They emphasize avoidance rather than confrontation. The most famous tales describe encounters that leave no evidence: shapes glimpsed, sounds half-heard, presences felt rather than seen. The forest does not reveal, it suggests, and suggestion is more unsettling than proof. Unlike Zhangjiajie, where vertical space creates separation, or Fanjing Shan, where ecology absorbs movement, Shenongjia removes feedback. The environment does not respond. It does not confirm presence. It does not acknowledge intrusion. This creates a subtle boundary. Here, humans are not challenged physically. Oxygen remains sufficient. Temperatures are moderate. The terrain is passable. Yet something essential is missing: the sense of interaction. The forest does not meet the gaze. It does not return sound. It does not register activity. Presence becomes one-sided. For researchers, this creates difficulty. Data collection is slow, sensors malfunction under humidity and organic interference. Signals weaken. Long-term observation requires constant recalibration. The environment introduces noise not through sound, but through absence of signal. This is the first place in the journey where the landscape feels indifferent to observation itself. Shenongjia does not repel humans. It does not isolate them dramatically. It simply outlasts attention. Stay long enough, and the mind begins to fill the silence. Patterns are imagined, movements are inferred, stillness becomes uneasy. The forest becomes a participant, not through action, but through refusal. This is why Shenongjia is remembered not for what happens, but for how it feels afterward. People leave quieter, speech becomes measured, memory focuses less on images and more on sensation, the weight of air, the thickness of shadow, the feeling of being unnoticed. Beyond this point, landscapes will escalate into extremes of altitude, cold, and exposure. But Shenongjia introduces a more intimate challenge first, the loss of dialogue. Here, the world does not speak back, and when silence becomes a presence, the boundary is no longer physical, it is psychological. Shenongjia does not block the path forward. It simply watches as travelers move through, and then closes behind them, leaving no trace that they were ever there. Mount Emei is where human presence becomes routine, yet never becomes ownership. Located in Sichuan province, Mount Emei is one of the 4 sacred Buddhist mountains of China. Roads reach deep into its lower slopes. Cable cars rise through forest layers. Temples appear frequently. Pilgrims arrive daily. On the surface, this looks like accessibility. But accessibility here is not the same as control. Mount Emei accepts visitors. It does not adjust to them. Rising to over 3,000 meters, the mountain spans multiple climate zones. Subtropical forest dominates the base. Dense cloud forest occupies the middle elevations. Near the summit, temperature drops sharply, and visibility becomes unstable. Weather shifts rapidly, often without forecast. Mist rolls in and erases distance within minutes. This vertical diversity creates a continuous transition, but not a gentle one. Unlike earlier mountains, where terrain itself limited access, Mount Emei allows movement while quietly reshaping intention. Paths are wide, steps are maintained, infrastructure is present, yet the deeper one ascends, the more the environment dictates behavior. Sound softens, crowds thin, temperature overrides comfort. Tourism fades without announcement. One of Mount Emei's defining characteristics is biological density. It hosts thousands of plant species, many of them endemic. Moisture saturates the air year-round. Moss coats stone, wood, and metal alike. Nothing remains dry for long. Even human-built structures begin to soften at the edges. This environment erodes permanence. Monkeys inhabit the mid-elevation forests, unafraid, observant, and assertive. They do not behave like wildlife responding to intrusion. They behave like residents evaluating guests. Food is taken openly. Eye contact is deliberate. Hierarchies are enforced. This reversal is subtle but important. At Mount Ime, humans are not explorers or conquerors. They are participants in an existing order. Culturally, the mountain has been climbed by monks, scholars, and pilgrims for more than 2,000 years. Unlike Mount Lu, where intellectual retreat shaped the landscape, Mount Ime shaped practice itself. Meditation here adapted to humidity, isolation, and instability. Spiritual routines aligned with weather rather than time. Temples appear at intervals, not as destinations, but as pauses. They are not positioned to dominate views. Many face inward toward forest walls or mist-filled valleys. The architecture does not frame the mountain, it submits to it. At the golden summit, the illusion of completion briefly returns. On clear days, a vast sea of clouds stretches below. Sunlight forms optical phenomena, halos, glories where a viewer's shadow appears encircled by light. These moments feel transcendent. They are also temporary. Weather shifts quickly, clouds close, wind intensifies. The summit does not hold still for admiration. It does not reward lingering. This impermanence is central to Mount Ime's role. Unlike locations built for spectacle, Mount Ime resists being consumed visually. It does not offer stable scenes. It does not repeat itself reliably. Photography becomes inconsistent. Memory becomes fragmented. Tourism here operates on the mountain's schedule, not the other way around. Even infrastructure reflects this imbalance. Cable cars close without warning, trails become slick and hazardous within hours. Maintenance is constant and never complete. Nature does not reclaim violently, it simply continues. This is where Mount Ime diverges sharply from earlier stages of the journey. Zhangjiaji imposed spatial boundaries. Fanjingshan absorbed movement. Shenongjia withheld response. Mount Ime does something quieter. It normalizes humility. Here, humans are numerous, but never central. Presence is expected, yet insignificant. The mountain does not react differently whether one visitor arrives or 10,000. This realization shifts behavior. Voices lower naturally, movement slows, gestures become careful. The environment enforces restraint, not through threat, but through scale and persistence. Mount Imei is not anti-tourism. It is post-tourism. It existed long before visitation and will remain unchanged by it. The systems that matter, climate, ecology, spiritual practice, do not depend on human engagement. They proceed regardless. This is the last place in the journey where large numbers of humans can still gather without immediate consequence. Beyond this point, altitude will thin air, cold will restrict exposure, terrain will narrow survival margins. Mount Imei stands at the edge of that transition. It is a reminder that presence alone does not equal belonging. You can arrive here easily, you can leave safely, but nothing you do alters the mountain's rhythm. Mount Imei does not perform, it endures. And in doing so, it quietly demonstrates a truth that will define the landscapes ahead. Some places allow us to visit, but none of them exist for us. At this stage of the journey, the boundary no longer comes from terrain alone. It comes from rules. Wutaishan in Shanxi province and the Wudang Mountains in Hubei represent a shift where the landscape does not merely limit movement, it shapes conduct. These are not places where humans test endurance. They are places where humans are expected to change themselves before proceeding. The mountains remain physically demanding, but the greater constraint is behavioral. Wutaishan rises as a high plateau rather than a singular peak, its rounded summits exposed to wind and cold for much of the year. Snow can fall even in summer. Visibility shifts rapidly. Yet what defines Wutaishan is not its climate, it is its role as the most important Buddhist pilgrimage center in northern China. Here, access is conditional. Temples are numerous, ancient, and active. Pilgrimage routes are structured. Silence is expected. Movement slows not because of slope, but because of ritual rhythm. Walking becomes processional. Time follows bells, chanting, and prayer cycles rather than daylight. The mountain regulates pace. Behavior aligns with repetition. Clothing becomes practical and modest. Voices lower naturally. The environment discourages deviation, not through enforcement, but through expectation. Those who do not adapt feel conspicuous, even intrusive. Wutaishan does not isolate. It standardizes. The landscape reinforces this order. Open plateaus provide no concealment. Weather exposure discourages lingering. Temples offer shelter, but only within established norms. The mountain allows passage, but only within a shared code. Wudang operates differently. Located further south, the Wudang Mountains are steeper, greener, and more enclosed. Mist settles into valleys. Stone stairways rise sharply through forested slopes. At first glance, Wudang feels more wild than Wutai, but its control is more precise. Wudang is governed by Taoist discipline. Here, behavior is shaped through movement itself. Stairways are narrow, steps are uneven. Progress requires attention to posture, breathing, and balance. The mountain enforces mindfulness through physical design. Taoist temples are positioned strategically on ridges, near voids, or at points where paths converge. They do not welcome arrival quickly. They require measured ascent. Pauses are built into the route. At Wudang, haste feels unsafe. This is intentional. Taoist practice emphasizes alignment with natural flow rather than resistance. The mountain translates that philosophy into spatial control. Straight lines are rare, paths curve, elevation changes abruptly. The body must adapt continuously. Here, the mountain does not allow mechanical movement. It demands awareness. Unlike tourist landscapes designed for efficiency, both Wutai and Wudang slow the visitor deliberately. Infrastructure exists, but it does not simplify. It channels. The result is a behavioral filter. Those seeking speed, spectacle, or convenience find little reward. Those willing to adjust pace, posture, intention find coherence. The mountains respond, not with views, but with permission. Culturally, this marks a critical transition. Earlier landscapes tolerated humans physically. Later ones will exclude them biologically. But here, humans are accepted only if they conform internally. The boundary is not altitude or cold, it is discipline. This is the first time in the journey where the environment expects something in return. The regulation is subtle but pervasive. No signs demand silence, yet silence emerges. No guards enforce slowness, yet rushing feels wrong. The mountains teach through friction. In Wutai, the friction is social and ritual. In Wudang, it is physical and internal. Both achieve the same result. Human behavior narrows, choice reduces, attention sharpens, movement becomes intentional rather than habitual. The landscape begins shaping not just where people go, but how they exist while moving. This is where exploration transforms into participation. Beyond this point, environments will no longer accommodate large populations or structured ritual. Altitude will thin crowds, climate will erode systems, survival will replace discipline. But Wutai Shan and Wudang Mountains stand at the last threshold, where human order still functions, provided it aligns with the mountain's logic. They are not obstacles, they are gatekeepers, not of land, but of conduct. And once behavior itself is regulated, the journey enters a phase where adaptation must move beyond culture, belief, or training into physiology. The mountains ahead will not care how you behave. They will only care whether you can endure. Rising sharply from the plains of Shanxi province, Mount Hua does not transition gradually, it erupts. Sheer granite walls lift almost vertically, forcing ascent into narrow corridors of stone, iron, and air. This is not a mountain that slows you down. It demands precision from the first step. Here, error has immediate consequence. Mount Hua is one of China's 5 great mountains, long revered for spiritual cultivation. But unlike Wutai or Wudang, where discipline is internalized through ritual and movement, Mount Hua enforces discipline through exposure. Paths are carved directly into cliff faces, footing narrows to inches. Chains replace railings. Wood planks hang over open void. The mountain does not threaten, it tests. Physically, Mount Hua reaches just over 2,150 meters far from the highest terrain ahead. Oxygen remains sufficient. Weather, while changeable, is not extreme. Yet this is among the most dangerous mountains in China, because risk is compressed into moments. Every step matters. Ancient stone stairways tilt at extreme angles, their edges worn smooth by centuries of use. Some sections require climbing rather than walking. Others demand sideways movement, bodies pressed to rock, hands gripping cold iron. The famous plank walk is not the mountain's essence, it is its declaration. A series of narrow boards bolted into a cliff, suspended hundreds of meters above nothing, the plank walk offers no room for correction. Balance is absolute. Fear is immediate. Movement becomes slow, deliberate, and intensely present. Here, the mind cannot wander. Mount Hua eliminates distraction. There is no scenery to admire casually, no rhythm to fall into. The environment narrows attention until only the next motion exists. This is the mountain's true function. Unlike previous stages, where behavior was guided, absorbed, or regulated, Mount Hua enforces a singular rule. Do not fail, not morally, not spiritually, physically. This creates a psychological compression unlike anywhere else. Breathing becomes conscious. Muscles tense constantly. Fatigue accumulates not from distance, but from sustained alertness. There is no relief in stopping. Platforms are minimal. Rest precarious. Human infrastructure here is unapologetically minimal. Steps, chains, and anchors exist only to make passage barely possible, not comfortable. There are no alternative routes, no forgiving terrain. Progress is linear and unforgiving. Culturally, Mount Hua was chosen by Taoist practitioners precisely because of this severity. Meditation here was not about peace, it was about confrontation, with fear, with instability, with the body's limits. Survival itself became practice. Unlike Mount Ma, where presence fades into humility, Mount Hua demands assertion. The climber must commit fully. Hesitation is dangerous. Overconfidence is lethal. Only calibrated action works. This is where freedom disappears. Choice collapses into execution. The mountain does not allow exploration. It allows traversal, and only under exact conditions. Weather closures are frequent. Wind transforms manageable ledges into hazards. Ice renders sections impassable. Mount Hua does not negotiate. This marks a turning point in the journey. Up to now, landscapes shaped perception, behavior, and awareness. From this point forward, landscapes will begin shaping survival probability. Errors will no longer be absorbed by forest, ritual, or silence. They will be punished immediately. Mount Hua is the warning. It demonstrates that extreme environments do not need height or cold to be deadly. All they require is precision, narrow margins, no recovery. Standing on its ridges, surrounded by empty air and sheer drops, one understands something fundamental. The mountain does not oppose you. It does not resist. It simply does not care whether you continue. This indifference strips away narrative. There is no story here beyond mechanics, grip strength, foot placement, timing, focus. When climbers reach the peaks east, west, south, north, the sense of achievement is sharp but contained. There is no illusion of mastery, only relief. Mount Hua does not grant insight, it grants survival. And survival, here, feels temporary. Beyond Mount Hua, the landscapes ahead will escalate in altitude, cold, and remoteness. But none will be as unforgiving per meter as this mountain. None will punish distraction so efficiently. Mount Hua is where the journey draws a clear line. From here on, the world does not allow mistakes, and neither can you. Yarding is where discipline, caution, and precision stop being enough. Located on the eastern edge of the Tibetan Plateau in western Sichuan, the Yading Nature Reserve rises into a realm where the human body becomes the limiting factor. Peaks exceed 6,000 meters. Valleys sit well above 4,000. The air thins quietly, without drama, and begins removing capacity rather than threatening safety. Here, failure is not sudden, it is systemic. At lower elevations, the landscape appears inviting. Alpine meadows stretch wide beneath snow-covered peaks. Lakes reflect sky and stone. With unnatural clarity, the terrain feels open, balanced, almost gentle. Paths are visible. Distances seem manageable. Then, the body begins to fall behind. Oxygen saturation drops steadily above 3,500 meters. Breathing deepens without delivering relief. Heart rate increases without exertion. Sleep becomes fragmented. Appetite fades. The body expends energy, simply maintaining baseline function. Yarding introduces a new boundary: physiological mismatch. No amount of focus compensates for reduced oxygen uptake. No discipline overrides cellular limits. The environment does not require technical skill. It demands adaptation that the human body cannot perform quickly. Movement slows without choice. Unlike Mount Hua, where every step must be perfect, yachting makes perfection irrelevant. Balance, grip, and attention remain intact. What degrades is endurance itself. Muscles weaken despite careful pacing. Recovery stretches endlessly. Fatigue becomes cumulative rather than responsive. This is altitude's quiet authority. The landscape reinforces this imbalance through scale. Peaks such as Chenrezig, Jambiang, and Chanadorje dominate the horizon, sharp, symmetrical, and distant. They appear reachable. They are not. Distance at altitude lies. What looks like a short ascent becomes hours of effort. Each gain in elevation costs disproportionately more energy. The body no longer translates intention into output reliably. Here, willpower fails silently. Culturally, yachting holds deep spiritual meaning for Tibetan Buddhists. The three sacred peaks represent compassion, wisdom, and power. Pilgrimage routes circle them rather than climb them. Circumambulation replaces ascent. This is not symbolic humility. It is practical wisdom. Local practice acknowledges what the environment enforces. Humans are not built to dominate here. The land is not hostile. It is simply optimized for conditions beyond normal physiology. Even long-adapted populations move differently. Pace is slower. Breath is controlled. Activity follows daylight strictly. Exertion is minimized. Nothing is wasted. Tourism exists in yachting, but it fragments quickly. Crowds gather near trailheads and lakes at lower elevations. Beyond that, numbers thin sharply. Infrastructure fades. Rescue becomes difficult. Communication weakens. The landscape filters bodies. Some continue upward. Others turn back not because of fear, but because of loss of function. Dizziness, nausea, headache, confusion. The early signs of altitude sickness arrive without warning or consistency. Yachting does not test courage, it tests compatibility. This marks a profound transition in the journey. Earlier mountains demanded behavioral adaptation. Some required silence, others demanded precision or restraint. Yachting requires a body capable of operating in hypoxic conditions. Most are not. This is where the environment becomes selective. Not through cliffs or cold, but through chemistry. Oxygen availability drops, blood thickens, cognitive clarity fades, simple decisions take longer, reaction times slow. The mountain does not punish mistakes, it prevents performance. And unlike skill-based challenges, acclimatization cannot be rushed. It demands time, genetics, and gradual exposure. For many, adaptation never completes. Standing in Yading, surrounded by immense peaks and thin air, humans feel intact yet diminished. The mind remains alert, the senses function, but the body resists. This dissonance is unsettling. It reveals a hard limit. Intelligence, preparation, and belief do not guarantee capability. Biology draws its own boundary. Beyond this point in the journey, landscapes will escalate further, cold will intensify, weather will destabilize, and terrain will empty entirely. But Yading introduces the most intimate exclusion of all. Not the denial of access, not the risk of error, but the realization that the environment is no longer compatible with the human body itself. Yading does not repel visitors. It does not threaten them. It simply exposes the mismatch between human design and high-altitude reality. Those who leave do not speak of fear. They speak of weakness they did not expect. And those who stay understand something essential. From here on, survival is no longer about decision-making. It is about whether the body, at a fundamental level, can still belong. Baima Snow Mountain is where adaptation ends. Located along the eastern edge of the Tibetan Plateau, Baima Snow Mountain rises beyond 5,400 meters, forming a cold barrier between temperate forests and the true alpine world. Unlike Yading, where the body struggles to keep up, Baima Snow Mountain reveals something more final. Life itself begins to fail. This is not a place where humans are merely disadvantaged. It is a place where biology reaches its boundary. Below 3,500 meters, vegetation is abundant. Coniferous forests dominate. Wildlife remains diverse. But as elevation increases, life narrows rapidly. Tree lines collapse, shrubs shrink, grass thins. Above certain ridges, nothing grows at all. Temperature here is not seasonal, it is structural. Even in summer, frost persists in shaded areas. Snowfields remain year-round. Winds accelerate across exposed slopes, stripping heat from skin and lungs. Moisture freezes before it can accumulate. Soil formation stops. Decomposition slows to near zero. This creates a biological bottleneck. Only a limited set of organisms can survive here. Species with extreme cold tolerance, low oxygen requirements, and minimal energy needs. Many are endemic. Some exist nowhere else on Earth. Their presence is sparse, scattered, and fragile. Humans do not belong to this system. At these elevations, the human body cannot stabilize. Oxygen saturation drops below sustainable levels for prolonged activity. Core temperature becomes difficult to maintain. Caloric demand increases, while appetite disappears. Immune response weakens. Even at rest, the body deteriorates. This is no longer about endurance or acclimatization. It is about cellular failure. Muscle tissue breaks down faster than it can repair. Blood thickens. Cognitive processing slows, reaction times degrade, judgment becomes unreliable, sleep loses restorative function. The body begins consuming itself to stay warm and conscious. Bama Snow Mountain does not allow long exposure. This is why human presence here is minimal and transient. There are no permanent settlements, no sustained routes, no cultural centers at high elevation. Paths exist only as seasonal traces, quickly erased by snow, ice, and wind. Local populations live far below the biological ceiling. Culturally, Bama Snow Mountain is treated with reverence and distance. It is not climbed casually, it is not circled routinely. It is acknowledged as a guardian boundary, a place that protects ecosystems below by remaining inaccessible above. Prayer stones and flags appear only at lower passes. Beyond that, human markers disappear entirely. The mountain becomes indifferent to meaning. Wildlife that survives here moves differently. Snow leopards conserve motion with precision. Blue sheep navigate slopes without exertion. Birds fly low and briefly, conserving oxygen. Everything minimizes exposure. Nothing wastes energy. This efficiency is the mountain's law. For humans, inefficiency is fatal here. Heat loss exceeds production. Oxygen demand exceeds supply. Recovery never completes. Small injuries escalate quickly. Infection risk rises. Rescue becomes improbable. Bama Snow Mountain does not offer drama, it offers attrition. This is the stage of the journey where landscapes no longer challenge the human ambition. They exclude human biology outright. There is no test to pass, no skill to master, no behavior to adjust. The environment simply operates beyond the design parameters of the human organism. Standing at these elevations, the realization is stark. The planet contains vast regions where life continues, just not our life. And this is not hostility, it is scale. Bama Snow Mountain represents the point where Earth's systems stop accommodating mammalian comfort. Oxygen partial pressure drops, thermal equilibrium collapses, metabolism cannot compensate. Here, survival time is finite. Beyond this boundary lie environments governed almost entirely by physics rather than biology. Ice, wind, radiation, and stone. Life persists only in trace forms or not at all. Bama Snow Mountain is the last place where complex life still clings on. For humans, it is a warning written in cold and altitude. The world is not calibrated for us. We evolved within narrow margins. Temperature, pressure, oxygen, energy, step beyond them, and adaptation fails quickly. Baima Snow Mountain does not repel with cliffs or storms. It simply outlives the human body. Those who approach its upper reaches feel the truth immediately, not as fear, but as depletion. Strength fades without struggle, breath shortens without effort, thought slows without resistance. The mountain does not defeat you, it waits. And in that waiting, it defines the biological limit, the point where Earth continues perfectly well, even as human capacity quietly ends. Minya Konka is where the ground itself stops offering permission, rising to 7,556 meters on the eastern edge of the Tibetan Plateau. Minya Konka, also known as Gonga Shan, does not confront humans with a single defining obstacle. It does something more absolute. It removes the very concept of stability. Here, the challenge is not altitude alone, not cold, not wind, not weather. It is the absence of anything that can be relied upon geologically, climatically, or temporally. There is no place to stand long enough to belong. Unlike Baima Snow Mountain, where biology fails gradually and predictably, Minya Konka introduces a harsher condition. The terrain itself refuses to settle. Everything here is in motion. Glaciers advance, retreat, and fracture without pattern. Ice shelves shear away silently. Rock faces shed debris continuously under stress. Snow loads shift hourly as wind redistributes mass across slopes. The mountain is never still. Even the idea of solid ground becomes theoretical. What holds weight one moment may collapse the next. Snow bridges conceal deep voids that open and close with temperature and pressure. Ice that appears firm at dawn softens by afternoon. Anchors loosen, crevasses migrate. Here, permanence does not exist even briefly. Geologically, Minya Konka is young and violent by mountain standards. It continues to rise today, driven by the collision between the Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates. This ongoing uplift creates one of the most extreme vertical profiles on Earth, nearly 6,500 meters of elevation difference, compressed into a relatively short horizontal distance. Few mountains rise so abruptly, fewer still remain so unstable. This vertical compression amplifies everything. Gravity accelerates debris. Ice accumulates faster than it can stabilize. Stress fractures propagate continuously. The mountain never reaches equilibrium. Glaciers hang above valleys like suspended weight, always on the edge of release. Seracs collapse without warning. Avalanches do not announce themselves. Crevasses open beneath what appears to be unbroken snow. What looks solid in the morning may no longer exist by afternoon. For climbers, this creates a fundamental and unsolvable problem. There is no safe zone. Camps are temporary compromises, chosen not for safety, but for momentary survival. Routes change yearly, sometimes weekly. Fixed lines fail, anchors pull free, maps lose relevance almost immediately. Even veteran alpinists describe Minya Konka as unreadable, not because it is complex, but because it refuses repetition. The mountain does not allow familiarity. Weather compounds this instability. Minya Konka generates its own systems. Warm, moisture-heavy air rises rapidly from surrounding lowlands, condensing into violent storms as it meets cold upper slopes. Clear skies collapse into whiteouts within minutes. Winds accelerate through narrow ridges to lethal speeds. Temperature drops are abrupt and extreme. Forecasts lose authority here. Experience loses authority here. Unlike Mount Hua, where precision can prevent error, Minya Konka renders precision insufficient. Even perfect technique cannot compensate for a surface that reorganizes faster than human reaction time. This is where skill loses relevance. Human physiology is already compromised at these elevations. Oxygen availability is critically low. Muscular output declines sharply. Recovery slows, then ceases. Cognitive processing degrades. But Minya Konka adds another layer of exclusion. Even if the body holds, the terrain does not. Standing still becomes dangerous. Rest is exposure. Sleep is vulnerability. Pauses invite collapse. Even base camps lie beneath hanging ice and unstable rock. Nights offer no safety. Winds scour shelters. Temperatures drain heat relentlessly. Sleep fragments into shallow intervals. The body degrades without interruption. The mind never disengages. This is not endurance. It is erosion. Culturally, Minya Konka has long been regarded as untouchable. Local Tibetan communities treat it as a sacred peak, a dwelling place of powerful deities whose domain should not be disturbed. For centuries, it remained unmapped, unmeasured, and unapproached. When expeditions finally arrived, they did not encounter resistance. They encountered absence of support. Early attempts ended in catastrophe. Entire teams vanished. Routes disappeared mid-climb. Survival depended less on decision-making than on luck. The mountain did not oppose them. It simply offered nowhere to settle. Successful ascents remain rare and costly. Fatality rates are among the highest in Asia. Most attempts turn back not from fear, but from calculation. The margin between survival and collapse is too narrow. Weather windows close suddenly. Retreat routes dissolve. Delay is punished. Minya Konka does not reward persistence. It punishes hesitation. This creates a decisive boundary in the journey. Earlier landscapes limited movement, behavior, biology, or oxygen. Minya Konka eliminates rest itself. There is no plateau of adaptation, no stable phase where humans can recalibrate, recover, or regain control. Exposure is continuous. To exist on Minya Konka is to exist temporarily, precariously, and without grounding. Every position is transitional. Every choice assumes loss. Every success is provisional. From a distance, the mountain appears majestic, almost symmetrical. Its summit glows white against dark valleys. It looks calm, monumental, complete, but this clarity is deceptive. Minya Konka is a system in constant flux, shaped by gravity, ice, wind, and tectonic pressure acting faster than human adaptation. It does not allow ownership of space. This is why Minya Konka stands as one of Asia's most dangerous peaks, not because it is the highest, but because it denies humans their most basic requirement, a stable place to exist. Beyond this point, the journey moves toward environments where even presence becomes hypothetical, where ice fields stretch endlessly and human traces vanish within hours. But Minya Konka delivers the final structural lesson first. Without stable ground, there is no shelter, no strategy, no future position. The mountain does not need to expel humans. It simply refuses to hold them. And in that refusal, it reveals the ultimate boundary, not of strength, skill, or biology, but of existence itself. Minya Konka does not collapse beneath you. It moves on, without you ever truly standing there at all. The deep Tibetan plateau is where the journey stops framing limits and begins revealing irrelevance. At an average elevation exceeding 4,500 meters, this vast highland is not defined by peaks or valleys, but by continuity. The land does not rise toward climax or fall into relief. It extends. Flat horizons stretch for hundreds of kilometers without interruption. No single mountain commands attention. No destination anchors the eye. Sky and earth merge into a single, diluted plane where scale dissolves rather than intensifies. Here, distance loses meaning. The plateau does not guide movement forward or upward. It offers no directional narrative. Every direction feels equally unfinished, equally endless. Progress becomes abstract. Motion exists without arrival. In this space, nature no longer reacts to human presence. It proceeds without reference to it. This is the largest and highest plateau on Earth, often called the Third Pole, because of its immense ice reserves and its central role in regulating planetary systems. Jet streams form here before circling continents. Monsoons are shaped here before reaching billions of people. Asia's great rivers, the Yangtze, Yellow, Mekong, Brahmaputra, begin here as thin, fragile trickles before becoming lifelines far downstream. The plateau influences the world, but the world does not influence the plateau. Despite its global importance, human life within it remains marginal. The environment is not hostile in the dramatic sense. There are no constant avalanches, no vertical cliffs, no singular moments of danger. Instead, there is absence of oxygen density, of warmth retention, of shelter, of response. Conditions are stable but permanently extreme. Wind never fully stops. Temperatures remain low year-round. Solar radiation is unfiltered, burning skin under freezing air. Nights arrive suddenly and with punishing cold. Nothing here invites settlement. Nothing encourages permanence. Vegetation is sparse and highly specialized. Low grasses grow pressed against the ground, shaped by wind more than soil. Mosses and lichens advance millimeter by millimeter, sometimes taking decades to cover what elsewhere would take a season. Growth is not seasonal, it is geological. Animals that survive here are adapted beyond intuition. Wild yaks, Tibetan antelope, and kiang traverse vast distances with minimal energy loss. Their blood carries oxygen efficiently. Their lungs extract what little exists. Their metabolism conserves heat with precision. Their migrations follow rhythms shaped by pressure systems, not calendars. They do not dominate the land. They synchronize with it. Humans, by contrast, remain external. Permanent settlements are rare, fragile, and conditional. Nomadic life persists only through deep cultural adaptation, seasonal migration, minimal possessions, strict conservation of energy and resources. Even these systems operate close to collapse. One disrupted grazing cycle, one prolonged winter, one failed river thaw, margins disappear quickly. Modern infrastructure fares worse. Roads fracture under freeze-thaw cycles. Engines lose efficiency. Electronics fail in thin air and extreme cold. Fuel consumption becomes excessive. Maintenance never ends and never succeeds fully. The plateau does not reject technology. It simply ignores it. Time behaves differently here. Without dense landmarks or vertical relief, distance becomes deceptive. What appears close may take half a day to reach. What feels like steady movement often produces no visible change. The land offers no milestones, no sense of progress. Movement loses narrative. This absence reshapes perception. Travelers describe a gradual erosion of urgency. The mind stops anticipating events. Thought slows. Emotional responses flatten. There is no tension to resolve, no challenge to overcome, no payoff waiting ahead. The plateau offers no drama, only persistence. Culturally, the deep Tibetan plateau is understood not as a place to conquer or transform, but as a domain to coexist with briefly. Spiritual traditions here emphasize impermanence, humility, and detachment, not as philosophy, but as survival logic. You do not leave marks on this land. Wind erases tracks within hours. Snow absorbs structures within days. Even death does not linger. Bodies return quickly to the system through exposure and scavenging. Nothing is preserved. Nothing is remembered. This is the ultimate contrast to human-centered landscapes. Earlier mountains tested skill, discipline, biology, or stability. Here, none of those matter. The environment does not evaluate you, it does not reward success or punish failure. It does not acknowledge effort, it simply continues. Standing on the plateau, one realization becomes unavoidable. The planet functions perfectly well without us. Climate cycles operate, rivers flow, species migrate, geological processes advance. Human absence changes nothing. This realization is not hostile, it is clarifying. The deep Tibetan plateau reveals that human relevance is local, conditional, and temporary. We exist comfortably only within narrow bands of pressure, temperature, and oxygen. Step outside them, and the world does not adjust. It does not need to. Beyond this point, there are no further boundaries to cross because the concept of crossing itself dissolves. There is nowhere left to go that changes the relationship. Everywhere is the same. Vast, thin, cold, and indifferent. The plateau does not end the journey with confrontation. It ends it with perspective. Here, the final truth emerges quietly. Nature does not oppose us. It does not judge us. It does not require us. We are not excluded. We are simply unnecessary. And in that realization, standing beneath a sky too large to frame, on land too old to register footsteps, the journey reaches its conclusion, not with triumph, not with defeat, but with understanding. The world is complete without us. At the end of this journey, there is no final peak to conquer, no summit that resolves the story. What remains is a pattern. Across China's mountain worlds, the boundary has shifted again and again. First, space fragmented. Then paths vanished. Silence took control. Behavior was regulated. Mistakes were no longer allowed. The body failed. Biology ended. The ground itself disappeared. Until finally, relevance vanished. Each landscape did not oppose humanity with force, but with indifference. The farther we moved from familiar ground, the less the world responded to intention, belief, or effort. Skill mattered until it didn't. Discipline mattered until it couldn't compensate. Survival mattered until there was nothing left to adapt. These places were never empty. They were complete. Mountains did not become hostile. Forests did not turn cruel. Plateaus did not reject us. They simply continued according to systems older, larger, and more stable than human presence. What we encountered was not danger, but scale. The final boundary is not altitude, cold, silence, or death. It is the moment we understand that the world does not exist in relation to us. We are guests in narrow corridors of habitability, thin bands of oxygen, temperature, and stability. Beyond them, the planet functions effortlessly, precisely, and without acknowledgement. That realization changes the meaning of exploration. To explore is not to claim, not to master, not even to endure. It is to witness where we stop being central. These mountain worlds are not destinations. They are thresholds, quiet reminders of limits we do not control. And when we leave them, the land does not remember us. Footprints fade. Silence returns. The system closes, not because we failed, but because we were never required. That is the final boundary, and beyond it, the world goes on.